Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Spirituality of Dreaming, Unlocking the Wisdom of Our Sleeping Selves by Kelly Bulkeley, narrated by Andrew Joseph Perez. Introduction. At no point during childhood did I ever say, "When I grow up, I want to be a dream researcher." Even if I had known such a thing was possible, it would have held zero interest to me. Raised in a middle-class California suburb in the 1960s and 1970s, I was an outward-focused kid, directing all my energies toward school, friends, riding my bike, building forts, and participating in the yearly calendar of sports. Football in the fall, basketball in the winter, baseball in the spring and summer. Anything involving competition and a ball, that's where you would find me. I didn't think much about the future beyond fantasies of playing center field for the San Francisco Giants. I just assumed things would work out, that I would find a way to support myself and continue living as I always had. In retrospect, I can recognize the many privileges built into that easy assumption. At the time, it just felt like the natural and obvious way to go. All I had to do was keep trying to win in the classroom and on the playing field, and everything else would take care of itself. A hint that I might eventually decide to depart from the path of normality came in 5th grade, when I was about 11 years old. Our teacher had assigned us a special writing project of 2 or 3 pages on any topic we liked, and a friend and I co-wrote a 20-page paper on the history of horror movies. We analyzed the classic films of Western horror by decade, 1920s through 1960s, profiled the top actors, and ranked the movies in various categories. We received not only the highest grade in the class, but one of the highest grades the teacher had ever given for any assignment. Score. Something clicked, and it was something beyond mere competition. I can now see how my passion for research and writing was kindled by this project. I can also understand what I found so compelling about the subject of scary movies. The top 3 films in my 11-year-old pantheon of cinematic horror were Frankenstein, 1931, Dracula, 1931, and King Kong, 1933. All of which appeared just before the imposition of the Hays Code in 1934, which strictly prohibited vulgarity and suggestiveness in American movies for the next 30 years. I had no idea about that at the time, of course, but I definitely sensed in my top 3 an opening into a realm of forbidden insights and uncanny truths. Other people seemed to find movies like that weird and scary, but I was intuitively drawn to them and wanted to explore them in more depth. At some point during adolescence, I began noticing that I was having vivid and recurring nightmares. Or more accurately, I could no longer ignore that for many years I had been having vivid nightmares. They usually involved being chased by a variety of terrifying antagonists, wild animals, monsters, aliens, murderous humans, and never being able to escape no matter what I tried to do. As I thought more carefully about these recurrent dreams and their persistent themes of fear, aggression, and vulnerability, I marveled at their dramatic complexity and overwhelming energy. They clearly related to the movies I had watched throughout childhood, but the dreams were scarier and even more intense than the films, and they were bizarrely interwoven with a wild variety of images, emotions, and characters. How, I wondered, could these terrifying, hyper-realistic experiences emerge from my own sleeping mind? I began reading books about dreams. Everything I could find, old and new, famous and obscure, scientific and mystical. I also began keeping a dream journal, tracking the metamorphoses of my nightmares over time. The practice of writing my dreams in a journal on a regular basis added structure and focus to my efforts to understand the private horror movies playing nightly in the theater of my imagination. After a while, I noticed something was happening. Something quite unexpected. My dreams seemed to be changing in response to my waking interest and attention. The recurrent scenario of being chased had diminished in frequency and intensity, and other themes came to the fore. What did this gradual but unmistakable change mean? After more reading, reflecting, and dreaming, I realized a kind of dialogue had emerged between the conscious and unconscious aspects of my mind. It was as if two parts of myself were carrying on a dialogue mediated by dreams. This surprising discovery sparked an enduring curiosity about dreams and a desire to learn more about them. I wanted to understand not just what I could learn from this dialogue with my dreaming self, but what it meant that such a thing was possible at all. What kinds of beings are we that, in waking, our minds function in one way, and in sleep they function so very differently? And if we found a way to integrate these two aspects of ourselves more fully, what kinds of beings could we become? We need your dreams. Fast forward about 40 years, and here I am, a dream researcher, someone professionally devoted to the study of dreams. I have written many books and academic articles about dreams, and I manage an open-access digital archive, the Sleep and Dream Database, SDDB, with a collection of more than 50,000 dream reports from a wide variety of sources. I could never have gotten here without the many teachers, friends, and colleagues who helped and encouraged me along this extremely unconventional path. In this book, I will share with you the best insights and practices I have learned from these wise guides about how to enhance your innate capacities as a dreamer. Whether or not dreams have been an important part of your life before now, the spirituality of dreaming will give you the keys to unlock new dimensions of your own nocturnal imagination. To be clear from the outset, this book will also speak honestly about the challenges and difficulties that come with dreaming. It is important to be aware of both aspects, the positive and the negative, if you want to develop your dreaming powers to their fullest extent. The biblical story of Joseph and his brothers provides a dramatic expression of the potential perils in the life of a dreamer. They saw him from a distance, and before he came near to them, they conspired to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we shall say a wild animal has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams." Genesis chapter 37, verse 18 to 20. All three of the great Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, include Joseph's story in their sacred texts. In each of these traditions, he is held up as an ideal model of a dream interpreter, someone whose pure faith in God enabled him to understand symbolic dreams. His greatest success was interpreting the Pharaoh's dreams about the coming famine, which none of the other sages, diviners, and magicians of Egypt could figure out. However, Joseph's career as a dream interpreter would never have begun but for his narrow escape from his murderous brothers. His power, as both a dreamer and the interpreter of the dreams of others, emerged within a context of acute danger and mortal threat. If you have also experienced vivid, highly symbolic dreams, you can sympathize with Joseph's ordeals. Perhaps you too were treated differently early in your life because of your weird dreams and active imagination. People might have said there was something wrong with you, something not quite normal, maybe a problem with how your brain works. Perhaps you noticed it when someone became disturbed or even frightened by what you said about your dreams. At some point, you realized that most other people just don't dream like you do. The spirituality of dreaming is written for you. You might be unusual, but you are not alone. There have been people like you, big dreamers, in every culture around the world and in every period of history. There are big dreamers in the contemporary world too, and in this book, you will learn about their best insights and teachings. Whatever natural dreaming talents you already possess, there are ways for you to enhance and develop them further. My hope is to inspire you to honor and respect yourself as a dreamer, and to recognize the latent powers within you. I also hope this book will lead to new self-discoveries for you even if you do not consider yourself a big dreamer. These same powers of spiritual dreaming are latent within you. Maybe you are a person who used to have vivid, memorable dreams but no longer does. Maybe you're someone who remembers your dreams fairly often, but they seem to have no special meaning, like they're just rehashing mundane thoughts from current life. Still, you're curious. You sense more is possible in your dreams, more than your waking mind currently understands. But the access is blocked by a paradox. How can you get beyond the limits of your own consciousness to reach those deeper insights? The spirituality of dreaming is written for you too. The beauty of dreaming as a spiritual practice is that it provides a universally accessible experience in which your waking ego naturally recedes, allowing the creative powers of your unconscious psyche to come forth. The power of spiritual dreaming is available to everyone, every night when we sleep, throughout our lives. Wherever and whenever you start the journey, your dreams are there, ready to respond to the gift of your conscious attention. Let me be honest, I am offering these insights and teachings not just for your personal improvement, although that's a good thing too. My real goal is to recruit you for a bigger cause. The fact is, we need you. Your community needs you right now. If you are a big dreamer, your visionary gifts can make a real contribution to the collective health of those around you in these fraught and perilous times. It's a good thing that big dreamers can be found in every culture and period of history, because they are essential to collective survival, especially in periods of extreme fear and uncertainty. Intensified dreaming gives people the ability to look beyond the seemingly insurmountable limits of present reality. It enables them to envision new approaches to current problems, articulate the enduring values of the community, and stimulate others to draw more deeply upon their own creative resources. As we confront apocalyptic threats looming on multiple fronts, the practices and insights developed by big dreamers around the world are directly relevant to our troubled circumstances today. The spirituality of dreaming is a call to action for all the dreamers of the modern world. It asks you to take yourself seriously as a dreaming visionary and to recognize the value of your emergent powers. It asks you, in short, to embrace a life of spirit. Cultivating the spirit. In every known religious and spiritual tradition around the world, dreams have been regarded as a valuable means of communication between humans and the divine. As we shall discuss in the coming chapters, dreaming has played an important role in a variety of religious beliefs and practices, especially around the themes of healing, prophecy, creativity, and death. Some philosophers have speculated that dreaming is itself the origin of religion, that the core ideas of a disembodied soul, an afterlife, supernatural beings, and otherworldly realms all first emerged in human consciousness via dreaming. This is certainly the case with individuals who have converted to a religious tradition like Christianity, Islam, or Buddhism because of a powerful dream experience. In modern, mostly secular Western society, it might seem strange to connect dreaming with religion. But in the broad sweep of human history, dreaming and religion have always interacted with each other. What's strange is our contemporary amnesia about this time-honored relationship. I'm one of many who want to change that, and like I said, we need your help. In this book, I am using spirituality as a synonym for religion in the sense of beliefs about the ultimate nature of human life and our relations with transpersonal powers. The term spirit will be used in a very specific way, as a principle of vital movement, of movement that both expresses and generates life. We hear of this in the Ruach Elohim of Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. The spirit, or wind, or breath of God that moved over the face of the waters in the dark and formless chaos just before the creation of the world. We hear of it in the psyche of ancient Greek mythology and philosophy, the dynamic totality of our individual being whose essence, according to Aristotle, is motion. We hear of it in the Latin word inspirare, to breathe or to blow into, a reference to the rhythmic flow of air in and out of the lungs. We hear of it in the Geist of German philosophers like G.W.F. Hegel and Friedrich Nietzsche, the concept of life as constant dialectical unfolding and self-realization. Spirit, in this sense, can take religious and non-religious forms. It can manifest in quiet, personal contemplation and in large group activities. It reflects a vivid awareness of the primal forces that animate our existence, drive our growth, and fuel a process of continual self-transcendence. Interestingly enough, spirit, in this sense, is also connected to the biological concept of irritability, which is the capacity of living organisms to respond to stimuli in their environment. If you poke something that is alive, it will usually react with some sort of movement. If you poke an inanimate object, there is no such autonomous response, no self-directed movement. Spirit is the difference between life and death. It is the ability to act, to change, to become something new, to self-transcend. Dreams, and especially nightmares, can be powerful sources of irritating stimuli, poking us in parts of our personalities we have neglected or avoided, and prompting us to move toward greater awareness, integration, and growth, toward a life of greater spirit. This quality of open-ended dynamism is what originally drew me to the study of dreams. As I began reading about dream teachings and insights from other cultures and earlier periods of history, I realized these questions extend far beyond the conceptual framework of modern Western psychology. If I wanted to learn about the dimensions of dreams that most interested me, I would have to broaden the perspective and include the findings of many different fields of study. Hence, my decision to pursue graduate study in divinity schools, in programs that combined religion and psychology. I am not a conventionally religious person, but I knew that for most of human history, people had thought of their dreams in religious terms. So I hoped that gaining a deeper knowledge about the history of religions would help me better understand these traditional ideas about dreams and how they relate to modern scientific research. You will be introduced to my approach in action in the coming sections as I move back and forth between religious and psychological approaches, always centered on the lived experience of the dream. The thesis of this book is simple. Dreaming can be cultivated as a spiritual practice. While your body lies motionless in bed, your spirit soars. To be a big dreamer is to live a life of spirit. It might seem that an intense inward focus on dreaming and spirit is a recipe for social withdrawal, but that's not true. A life of dreaming and spirit can unfold in a variety of social settings, with deep involvement in communal activities and interpersonal relations. And to live a life of spirit will inevitably place you in positions of leadership, positions where you can have a meaningful impact on the well-being of other people. To be a spiritual leader, as the phrase will be used in this book, means leading from spirit and leading toward spirit. It means drawing on your powers of spirit to guide your actions in the world, and it means helping other people develop their own powers of spirit. True spiritual leaders, at least as I have known them in my life, are characterized by humility, concern for others, and openness toward transpersonal powers and otherworldly realities. Spirit begets more spirit. Here is an important lesson to draw from the story of Joseph's life as a dreamer. It was for just this reason that his brothers doubted his sincerity and plotted to murder him. A few lines earlier in the story, we hear what prompted their ire against their younger sibling. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they only hated him the more. He said to them, "Hear this dream which I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered round it and bowed down to my sheaf. Then he dreamed another dream, and told it to his brothers, and said, Behold, I have dreamed another dream, and behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. Genesis chapter 37, verses 5 through 9. His brothers had an immediate, angry interpretation of these dreams. Their younger sibling was suggesting that they bow down to him, that he was to have dominion over them. They saw his dreams as a direct threat to the traditional family order. The only motivation they could imagine for his behavior was a selfish desire for power. They did not recognize the possibility of an ego-transcending divine calling. Instead of discerning the mysterious movements of spirit, they could only see a challenge to their position, and they tried to destroy it. Their response, while harsh, is not entirely surprising. It is not the first, nor even the second, fratricidal plot in the book of Genesis. Earlier chapters relate the stories of Cain murdering Abel and Esau trying to murder Jacob. In both cases, an older brother is enraged at a violation of primogeniture, and he fights violently to restore the privilege of the eldest son to receive the blessings of the father. Joseph's brothers are essentially doing the same thing for the same reason. But Joseph did not die, as they plotted. In and through his dreams, he rose above them, not to rule them, but to serve as their beacon in an increasingly dangerous and uncertain future. The Ultimate Dream Guide. The chapters in Part 1 of this book examine specific methods that big dreamers have developed to enhance the insightfulness of their dreams. These include approaches to healthy sleep, techniques of interpretation, keeping a dream journal, and sharing dreams with others. In Part 2, we will discuss 3 realms of dreaming where spiritual energies can be especially strong: in dreams of animals and nature, gods and demons, and death and dying. The third and final part of the book explores the furthest reaches of spiritual dreaming, drawing on both ancient religious teachings and modern science to consider dreams as a means of expanding consciousness, a source of inspiration for art and cultural change, and a potential ally in the development of new technologies for health, healing, and connection. I can promise that listening to this book will help you develop a more dynamic relationship with your dreaming self, a relationship that will continue to grow and benefit you for the rest of your life. It's not that I have any special magic to bestow, it's that you have tremendous spiritual powers within your dreams, powers that can transform your waking life and contribute to collective change. I will offer ideas and practices that can help you gain more conscious access to these powers. Ultimately, however, you don't need me or anyone else to tell you where to go. The farther you move along this path, the more clearly your own dreams will illuminate the way ahead. Part 1. Practices. Chapter 1. A Revolutionary Act. Sleeping. The story of creation in the book of Genesis ends with the curious image of God resting, Shabbat. And he rested on the 7th day from all the work that he had done. Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. It seems like an obvious instance of anthropomorphism in the Bible's portrait of God's character, in which authors attribute finite human qualities, such as being tired, to an infinite divine being. God possesses the awesome power to create heaven and earth, and yet still needs to take a break from work? How does that make any sense? It can't be a matter of simply replenishing God's energy. An omnipotent deity presumably has inexhaustible power, and several biblical passages assert that God never wearies or gets tired. Some commentators believe the rest, or Shabbat, of God in this passage from Genesis is not about a biological need for recovery, but a formal statement about the process of creation, specifically its end. At the end of the 6 days of creation, God stopped creating. The rest of God means nothing other than this conclusion of divine world-building activity. This climactic moment of completing the cosmogonic process. Ceasing the work of creation is a moment so singularly important that God blessed and hallowed it. Yet, I still find it interesting to consider the possibility that God did need to rest following the creation. Perhaps God needed rest in the sense of a temporary withdrawal from external activity, a focus on quiet, internal rejuvenation that leads to a renewed capacity to engage with the outside world. In other words, perhaps God slept. What would it mean to conceive of hallowed, blessed sleep as an integral part of divine creation? Sleep provides the vital foundation for spiritual dreaming, so we shall begin here. The world of sleep is full of curious paradoxes. It is both deeply grounded in our physical nature and thoroughly shaped by our family and cultural communities. It is both a normal, ordinary part of life and a strangely complex and multifaceted realm of experience. It is both an intimately personal form of inward withdrawal and a powerful means of actively working on the problems and challenges of the waking world. Indeed, in our relentlessly active 24/7 world, affirming the values of sleep has become a revolutionary practice. This is the essential claim of Arianna Huffington's 2016 book, The Sleep Revolution: Transforming Your Life One Night at a Time. Huffington has become a self-described sleep evangelist on behalf of both the health benefits of sleep and its spiritually renewing power. After a lifetime of relentlessly fast-paced work and travel with the least possible sleep she could get away with, Huffington realized she was driving herself into the ground. Her physical health, mental sharpness, and emotional balance were all suffering, and she realized she had to make a change, quickly. So she pledged to herself that for a whole month she would sleep at least 8 hours a night. The results were transformative, enabling her to feel something she had not felt for many, many years, a sense of being truly well-rested. Huffington says, "When we are asleep, the things that define our identity when we're awake, our jobs, our relationships, our hopes, our fears, recede. And that makes possible one of the least discussed benefits, or miracles, really, of sleep. The way it allows us, once we return from our night's journey, to see the world anew, with fresh eyes and a reinvigorated spirit, to step out of time and come back to our lives restored." Her emphasis on this miracle of sleep is helpful in highlighting the spiritual potentials in this fast-changing area of scientific research. The sleep cycle. That we need sleep is a biological fact. Why we need sleep remains an open question. To sleep is not the same as lying motionless with your eyes closed in a dark room. Sleeping is not simply the absence of physical and mental activity. It brings on a dramatic shift in the functioning of the brain and body, a shift with important connections to internal activities involved in memory and learning, digestive health, and the immune system. In some ways, sleep can be characterized as a period of recovery from yesterday's labors. In others, it can be conceived as a period of preparation for tomorrow's challenges. This underscores the fundamental cyclical nature of sleeping and waking. We cannot understand either without understanding both in their dynamic interrelatedness. The new field of chronobiology has found a surprising variety of ways in which our bodies depend on the natural rhythm of sleeping and waking, with the timing of various processes determined by the setting and rising of the sun. Having evolved on a planet that spins around a star, we humans, along with all other terrestrial life forms, depend on a regular flow from one state to the other, from existence in the light of day to existence in the shadows of night. Our bodies have been designed by evolution to function best within that circadian flow. The word circadian comes from the Latin circa, around, with diem, day. Chronobiology has shown, for example, that vital hormones from the immune system are released during specific phases of sleep. If sleep is disrupted during those times, it can effectively block the hormonal releases, harming the health of the whole body. Researchers in this field have also found that disruptions.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?